Summer League action. Blazers, Jazz, Portland's Nasir Little rising up for the two-handed throw down.
There you go. They wanted to see a little more of that at North Carolina last year. Go get it, Nasir.
Now, he's a guy that probably would have benefited from another year of college, but he wants to get to the NBA. Watch him, man. He's got unlimited potential. Really started coming on around the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament.
All right, Thunder taking on the Croatian national team. Darius Baisley recovering and blocking the shot at the rim. Watch it again. Here it is.
Darius Baisley, a little interesting path to the NBA. Committed to Syracuse, then decommitted, was going to go G League. Instead, took $1 million internship at New Balance. Now we're going to see him in the NBA. No college experience for him. Long, good defender.
Dude from Croatia was like, hey, man, that was a good move. We don't have to go against Darius's over here.
No,
He was wide open until Darius came out of nowhere.
All right, moving on. Kevin Durant wasted no time announcing his decision to play in Brooklyn. Did it right at the start of free agency, but get this. Nets GM Sean Marks said that he didn't know KD chose his team until everyone else found out on social media. Marks also added that the team doctors evaluated Durant's torn Achilles on Monday, and they have not ruled him out for next season. See, would Durant be making a mistake rushing back next season?
I don't think so. I think that, and this is the tricky part, all right? Because he's got a very difficult rehab process. And from everything that I know, as far as sports science and athletes, you need to put a carrot in front of the horse to keep the horse going. So conventional wisdom is he forced himself into the playoff game, which jeopardized his career. Why would he force himself onto the basketball court? Because he don't think like me and you. And that's what a lot of fans get this mixed up. Well, if it was me. Well, it's not you. And typically, athletes are going to take the chance. Also, Kevin Durant, when the better shape you're in when you get a traumatic injury like that, the speedier the recovery, less trauma to the joints, and it's easier for you to get back to action. To me, I would set the fastest return that I could. I would look at all the athletes the last 10 years who have torn their Achilles in every sport, and I would target one of those people who came out the fastest. And I believe that a positive attitude, trainers, coaches, doctors will tell you this, it will speed up your recovery. So if you think you're going to get better, you know something? You're going to get better. And as you guys know, you work with me, I'm a very, very positive person. If you guys think this is going to be slow, then his rehab will be slow. If you don't think he's going to play next year, he's not going to play next year. But what I think Kevin Durant is going to do is he's going to be committed to the rehab. He's got a tremendous amount of confidence in Brooklyn's staff. Their team doctor has been his own personal doctor and has operated on him a couple times. And looking up Brooklyn, not only their coaching staff being different, but their medical staff is like no other. They have a guy who used to run Australian rules football. Kenny Atkinson, as a coach, was known as a player development. So they went and got guys used to train Navy SEALs. So they're looking at every sport, every explosive type exercise. They measure each guy, every muscle. So they do a great job as far as load management, as good as anyone in the league. So when you put that with one of the best athletes we've seen, I expect to see Kevin Durant next year. And because I believe Kevin Durant wants to make a speedy recovery and get back out there with his teammates.
Well, the key word in the question to me is, would it be a mistake for him to rush back? Of course it would be a mistake to rush back.
But what is rushing?
Right. That doesn't mean it would be a mistake to come back. I agree with Chris in this regard. I think he should target, I want to be back March 1st. Just to have, before the playoffs begin, have that as a target date. Do I think that's realistic? I do not. Do I think that, given there are a lot of variables here that make this more difficult to come back for this season than a typical Achilles injury? One is, let's say instead of being 12 months, it is 9.5 months. Well, that puts him coming back right at the start of the playoffs.
Okay, wait a second. But who put the rehab being a year? Who said that?
Well, what do you mean, who said that? I don't understand the question.
But who marked that? Who said that Achilles injury, you're going to be out a year?
Historically, in the NBA, we have seen guys typically miss 9 to 12 months. Boogie missed a week short of a year. We saw Kobe Bryant miss...
No, you're talking about when he got hurt to when he came back.
Yes, that's what
Boogie was ready before that, though.
Okay, but so Boogie missed 358 days. So let's say he was ready 30 days early. That's 11 months.
From the people I'm talking to, 6.5 months, the guy will be ready to play at full capacity. All right, now, the people I trust who work with the best athletes in the world, that's what they've told me. He'll be ready. Now, will the organization and or the athlete be ready? But as far as the rupture will be completely healed, and he will be 100%.
If you were the general manager of that team, would you put Kevin Durant, if he said he was fine and team doctors were like 6.5 months he's fine, would you feel comfortable putting him back out on the court?
It's about the eye test. Where is he as far as his basketball progression, and is he confident? Yes, and if he's confident he can get on the court, when he says that, yes, we're going to put him out there. Once the staff says that, yes, that's when I'd put him out there, absolutely.
But in order for him, the point that I was leading to, if I were a part of the organization, there's a drop-dead date to this regard. I cannot have Kevin Durant's first game back from an Achilles with a roster where he's played with 0 guys, 0 games, 0 minutes, be in the intensity of the playoffs. So if he can come back with a few weeks left in the regular season and ease himself into it, that's one thing. But now we are talking about a 9-month recovery. At 10.5 months, then you're talking about the second round of the NBA playoffs. But the Nets, by the way, could get to without Kevin Durant. The East has 2 excellent teams and then a bunch of maybes. But what I feel comfortable when Kevin Durant is, the plan for the Nets is contend for a title in 2021 and 2022, and hopefully KD and Kyrie both stay for the full 4 years, also 2023. That is their ultimate window. I would not jeopardize that by, if KD, even if he's cleared, have his first game be in the NBA playoffs. I think Kevin Durant, we saw when he came back from the injury, the intensity of the NBA finals. Like we all know, there's regular season speed, first round speed, conference finals speed, and NBA finals speed. Like we've heard players talk about how each finals game feels like the workload of 2 regular season games, each playoff game like a game and a half of regular season action. So I just think because when he got injured, because it was at the end of the postseason, it means for him to come back next year, it has to be an even more expedited recovery time. And that is not to mention that he doesn't have the benefit of having ever played with any of these guys and the comfort level that would come from that and the amount of getting to know each other on the court that any new player not coming off an injury, that Kyrie's going to have to deal with the Nets during the beginning of the season.
No one would give a player of Kevin Durant's caliber advice to play. You missed the whole regular season. You had an Achilles injury to play in the playoffs. No one would give him that advice. So we're not talking about that. Imagine if Brooklyn was not a playoff team. What would your advice to Kevin Durant be? Just skip all the next year? Or try to come back in the last little quarter of the season, last couple weeks of the season, to be able to play with these. This is basketball, man. You don't need that much time to get to know a guy. This is Kevin Durant. Move out the way, let him post up, let him get mid-range. Like, you don't need to get to know that. So for me, I would have the objective, forget they're a playoff team. Let's imagine they're out of the playoffs. I believe Kevin Durant, and my goal for him would be to play next season. And I have to put myself in it. If it was me, I would be trying to play next season. I wouldn't be listening to outside people. I'd be listening to my doctors. And I talked to a guy that handled my whole career. And I asked him, what would happen if we were training Kevin Durant and or it was me? He said, Chris, you'll be ready in 6.5 months, and we would try to get you back out there.
But isn't that the mentality the athlete has to have in order to, like, of course, if it's you, you want to believe that.
No, the athlete don't have to have it.
But should
But it's the difference between average folks, good athletes, and the best of the best. The best of the best all think a certain way. And I'm not trying to tell him to be reckless, but he's one of the greatest athletes that we've seen. Typically, their recovery happens to go faster than other regular people.
All right, speaking of athletes coming back, Talk about Cam Newton on the other side. Can the quarterback regain his MVP form next season? That's still ahead on First Things First.
Speaking of athletes, we'll do a lot of that over the next 2.5 hours.
Speaking of sports things.